As millions of students head back to the classroom, so too are thousands of teachers across the province, including at Toronto Metropolitan University, where a new course will see future educators learning about reducing racism in the school system. Joining us now is a TMU professor who developed this new course, Janelle Brady. Thank you so much for being with us today. And just to give a background to our viewers here, you specialized in, or you still specialize in early childhood studies and Black studies. Tell us about this new course at TMU. This is kind of a first here in Canada. Why is it needed?
Well, thank you so much, Faiza. First of all, as you mentioned, it is one of the first of its type in Canada, so I'm thrilled to have taught the course last winter to a number of very eager and keen students. About half of them will become teachers, teacher educators in the field. And the course is quite unique and important because it's delving into issues of anti-Black racism, but it's looking specifically at solutions and Black community resiliency and strength and the ways that each individual in the class community can contribute to meaningful change.
And for those students who are going to be taking this program here, what are they, what are they expecting to learn?
Well, I would say to expect the unexpected, particularly for myself as well. It is a learning journey for everyone. So there's lots of discussion and making sense of everyday occurrences that might seem just like the norm. For example, students would share about their field education experiences and not the greatest things that they might have witnessed as future teacher educators.
And as more students and future educators, as you say, take these classes here, is the expectation that they apply what they learn in their professional space as well?
Yes, definitely. One of the major takeaways from the course is that Blackness is intersectional and dealing with anti-Black racism cannot be a one-size-fits-all approach. So by that I mean that Blackness relates to disability, it relates to class, to sexuality, and all of these pieces are coming together. So for those taking the course, whether they're going on to be educators or not, because there are a number of pathways that our students take, it's really having that nuanced understanding to engage in meaningful conversations with Black children, families, and communities, and to be able to see and address racism on both a small scale, but also a larger scale within the organizations that they will belong to.
I want to talk a little bit about students and the importance of having these conversations with students here, and especially it comes at a time where there's a lot of controversy about what kids are being taught in school. Not here in Canada, in the US, we've seen books, for instance, being at the center of these conversations. I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on that and how early to incorporate these conversations with kids, and how young are those kids?
That's a great question, and that definitely comes up in the classroom. I would say as early and as young as possible. So for instance, if you're having a conversation with a toddler about race and racism, it's not necessarily a conversation that you would have with a teenager per se, but it's starting with those basic discussions around difference. So acknowledging that people are different, and that's okay. So children are constantly making sense of their world. So just delving into that curiosity, and often for Black educators, they do that all the time. Children will ask about their skin color, their complexion, their hair type, and today your hair is like this, and yesterday it was like that, and the texture. So really not shying away from those discussions and conversations, but allowing for children to have and explore that curiosity around difference as a starting point.
That conversation in schools too, does it spill out at home in communities? What's your advice for parents or parental figures?
Definitely. It needs to be a community endeavor, so it shouldn't only rest on the educators. So any type of caring adult, be it a parent or a caregiver, plays a role in those discussions. And many parents are already having those conversations around how to interact with the police. And we've heard a lot around that, especially during the pandemic. But it's really acknowledging that parents should have ongoing dialogue and discussion. It's not a one and done, like, okay, we're having this big talk, and then that causes sometimes some confusion and anxiety for children too. So really it's having those everyday discussions and looking at the ways that racism is integrated and built into systems. So for example, my playground and my park in my community has these types of swings and these types of things. And then when I go to another neighborhood, I'm not necessarily seeing that. So tying it to urban design, planning and building, tying it to racism around food insecurity. So not just saying we're going to do this because it's good for charity, but we're doing it because we're also tackling anti-Black racism, as in going to a food bank, for example. So those are the ways that could be tied in.
And just really quickly, we have about 20 seconds left. What's the future of this course here that's being taught at TMU, but not being taught everywhere else, perhaps?
So the future of the course is to ensure that the students walk away with some sort of spark ignited in them so that they can carry that conversation forward to any respective place that they'll be joining.
Okay, Janelle Brady, thank you so much for joining us in studio today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Faiza.